Ripple effects of this conflict are being felt far beyond Venezuela, including right here in Charlotte.
WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards now live this morning in Uptown after protesters took to the streets this weekend, voicing their concerns with this. Destiny.
Yeah, dozens of people gathered in Uptown over the weekend to protest this U.S. military action in Venezuela. And organizers are calling it an emergency response to what they consider dangerous escalation overseas. Now, protesters got together at Romare Bearden Park and held handmade signs with statements like "No war on Venezuela" and "Hands off Venezuela." They waved both Venezuelan and American flags, saying their message is about.
Welcome to the video. This is Justin Paul. I'm doing a reaction to several clips that I've gathered of, people in the United States protesting what happened in Venezuela. Some of these people don't even look Venezuelan. These I can't even say they're paid actors, because who's gonna pay these people to get out there and in the cold and do this stuff, and it really don't mean anything because nobody's listening to you what you're protesting. The actions are already done, and it's no way that you can stop anything from happening with all this protesting. But if you can, read some of the signs: hands off Venezuela, stop the bombing. Come on, guys. You know, I don't know if people seen all the Venezuelans that's in like Doral and just in Venezuela itself. All those people were celebrating. Like, you have thousands, millions of people celebrating. Like, I've never seen stuff like this. Like, okay, when Saddam Hussein was outed in power, of course, stuff like that. But like, it's millions of Venezuelans who are happy that they're not under a dictator. Someone who they didn't have the option of whether he was going to be president or not. That's just like us in the United States. If we had someone running and we voted the other way, but they still was put in power. That's just not right. It's just not fair. And so we have to do what we have to do. I know this sounds crazy, and yes, this is about oil. I do see that on the cardboard there. A lot of it is definitely about oil. Majority of it, from what I took from that press conference, man, Maduro just ended up being, put in a position where he's accused of working with cartels to get drugs funneled through, and on into the United States, which, of course, people are going to make the argument that a lot of countries are doing that. And those countries they may be on the radar, but I feel like this was one of the first dominoes that had to fall, because our president wanted to position ourselves to be able to take over the oil industry in Venezuela. And this is a capitalistic country. I don't really expect anything less. Honestly, sad to say, but it's just the truth.
About peace, not politics. People who spoke at the protest say history is repeating itself, and they believe this military intervention will only lead to long, unnecessary conflict.
We've seen this before with Iraq, where American citizens were pulled into an endless war under the guise of weapons of mass destruction.
Nah, this is different. This is not like Iraq and the whole hunt for weapons of mass destruction. We're not hunting for anything. We know there's oil in Venezuela, for one. Apparently, the U.S. had, they had aided Venezuela in, getting that whole oil industry up and going. Apparently, that equipment is maybe outdated, or it may not be outdated, but from what our president is telling us, they're not producing as they should be producing, and he's going to send the big companies, the big oil companies over there, and get those oil wells and reserves, producing and stuff like they should. But we're not hunting for any weapons of mass destruction in Venezuela. We wanted Maduro, wanted his wife, mission complete. They're in the United States facing trial. We're not on a blind hide and seek mission looking for weapons of mass destruction. It's two different things. So see, that's why you can't be out there listening and just following anybody, because people start telling you stuff and it just doesn't really make any sense. So no, we haven't seen anything like this. This is nothing like Iraq. This is nothing like going and hunting for weapons of mass destruction that don't exist.
Is an outrageous violation of a nation's sovereignty.
And violation of sovereignty, man, like I guess she didn't see all the people that were cheering the next morning after they heard that Maduro was brought back over to the United States. I guess she didn't see that. It didn't sound like anybody was hurting anybody's sovereignty when you hear all those people screaming USA in Venezuela. People all in the streets cheering and happy. So like I say, man, these people, man, and that's why it's not even a whole lot of people out there. Cause, like, man, do y'all even, like I say, do y'all even have a job? Like, what job is gonna let y'all off work, literally knowing that you're gonna go downtown and be protesting? Like, it just doesn't make no sense.
Today, hundreds of people gathered in Greensboro to protest the strikes in Venezuela. Nixon Norman was there.
Signs held high.
Again, people just find any ways to do no war, no hate, no Trump. But so y'all supporting dictators, huh? Y'all supporting people being oppressed in their own countries. Because if you didn't know, a lot of Cubans were imported into Venezuela to, be around Maduro and stuff like that. It's been widely reported. So, Venezuelans just had to fall in line or risk, punishment. But, everyone's so quick to think, oh, it's gonna be a war. A war with who?
Signs held high. Megaphones echoing chants.
Save our brothers and sisters from another war!
Car horns blaring in support. All of it filling the streets of Greensboro as hundreds.
Look at who's out there, man. Look at these look at who's out there. None of these people look Venezuelan to me. These people just look like opportunists. Just want to get out in the streets and like, you're retired, you're at home bored. Instead of just sitting in front of the TV all day and watching your stories, you want to get out here and throw up these signs, no war, and all this other stuff. Nobody's listening to you guys. You're just wasting your time.
Hundreds gathered to protest what unfolded in Venezuela over the weekend.
I'm a one-time Trump voter. I regret that vote. You can't have a president just bomb a country and take another leader, and not ask anybody for permission.
We don't, man. Like, and ask for permission, risk the information getting leaked, and then risk the lives of our military servicemen. These people are I guess this is what they call liberals. Look at this black lady. Like, man, what you doing out there? Like,
We don't run other countries, we run our own country. That's for the Venezuelan people to do. They should be free, they should have dignity, they should have liberty, just like we should here in the United States.
and that's what we were doing. We was getting Maduro out of there so they are able to have that freedom and liberty. No war for oil, man. It's been a war for oil for as long as this lady or man has been alive. And it ain't gonna stop even once we're all gone.
With veterans also speaking out, questioning the justification behind the operation.
It is seemingly unbelievable that our military will invade another country and kidnap their president under some flimsy excuse about drug trafficking.
So what you're hearing from protesters.
So that's a flimsy excuse. So he must, all respect to him because he's a veteran, but he must be on drugs because, you know, when you know of people who lost people to drugs that's been coming in from those areas, you won't have that same you just won't have that same outlook on things. Let's go over to DC.
And protests erupt in our nation's capital after the Venezuela takeover. We have reaction from people all across the DMV, along with on the Hill. Fox 5 News at 10 starts right now.
Child trafficking.
Meanwhile, hundreds of people have taken to the streets here in our nation's capital, some to protest this action, some to praise it. Let's bring in our Julie Donaldson now. Julie, I know you've been out there for your gathering.
Because the U.S., Donald Trump, this fascist regime just launched a completely illegal, illegitimate invasion, kidnapping of Nicolas Maduro. And every decent person in this country needs to be sounding the alarm, speaking out, taking to the streets and saying, hands off Venezuela. Wow.
So was you gonna go help the Venezuelans out? Because they obviously didn't want Maduro as their leader.
We're cutting services to people who really need them in this country. We have no business spending money on invading other countries. As much as I dislike my president, the guy who's in the White House now, I don't like him at all. I don't want anybody coming from Venezuela to kidnap him.
Why do you not like the president? Nobody, I haven't heard anybody really give me a sound reason why they do not like Trump. You know, I think people are just satisfied with any and everything happening until it actually happens to them. Like they like people don't mind illegals, illegal, aliens and stuff like that, immigrants coming into the country until they get knocked over the head and having their purse snatched or even being killed by someone that's coming over here, or maybe their daughters or their children. I really don't think people think about that type of stuff until it actually happens to them. And that's having a lack of awareness of what's going on. Unless your son dies from a fentanyl overdose or doing a cocaine overdose, then at that point you actually see the bigger picture. So people they're just gonna be opposing stuff until it actually hits their home, and once it hits their home, then they want to be for it. Yeah, it's very sad.
Now, following the U.S. strike and Maduro's capture, this protest was held outside the White House. People held signs that read, "No U.S. war on Venezuela" and "U.S. hands off Latin America." Some described the attack as an act of aggression on the Venezuelan people. Locally, protesters took to the streets of Pensacola this afternoon, joining those across the country today voicing their concerns over this shocking attack against Venezuela.
I know that the rights of Venezuelans are the same rights that we all have here. None of us should be scared.
And they find the guy with a nose ring, a hoop nose ring. That's the guy they find to interview with a hoop nose ring, who may identify as a woman. Who knows? But this is the guy they find to interview.
Rights of Venezuelans are the same rights that we all have here. None of us should be scared that we're going to be bombed just because another country disagrees with our government.
I don't know why we would be scared of being bombed. We're the United States. I don't think you know where you're at, because you get to walk around here and protest and speak your mind freely off the backs of our military service members, off the backs that, we are who we are. You get to get out there and say that stupid stuff that you just said. And, again, nobody's listening to you, man. This is just a waste of time. You guys called out of work, wasted all this time making signs and standing out there for hours, getting paid nothing, and no one's really listening. Because a lot of comments I've been seeing, or all that celebrating I was seeing from Venezuelans, y'all are just protesting for nothing. And no matter what y'all do or what y'all say, things are already put in motion, and it's just gonna happen. So tough luck. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up, man. I'm sorry to be so, one-sided with this thing, but I just don't believe in getting out there protesting over stuff like this. I mean, if you really want to make some change, man, take your ass to the voting stations and vote. But we obviously see that y'all are the minority, because when someone wins the popular vote and they win the electoral college, it lets you know that all your opposition is just it's very small in percentages, because it's a lot of people who think the other way, and that's just how it is. But if you like my content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This is Justin Paul. Peace.